All right, welcome to a fantastic day. Once again on a wonderful field trip to living the hero's journey. My name is Will. Over here we have Lady Miss Fern, and over here we have Mr. Sean. And today we have one of my favorite things to look for in books, movies, and all sorts of different stories. And what is that? That is my favorite thing. It is motifs. Well, what is a motif? Well, it is a literary device that is either an image, idea, or symbol that develops or explains a theme. So it's basically some imagery type thing that keeps happening in a story that explains a theme. What is a theme? Well, a theme, most all good stories have a theme. And a theme is a central idea or kind of a message. So a lot of different stories have their own message. So for instance, if you've ever heard of like a bedtime story, they have a theme. Perhaps the three little pigs who build their houses. One builds it out of straw so he can play. The other one builds it out of sticks so he can play. But the third one builds it out of bricks and spends a lot of hard work making it nice and strong so that he's safe from the wolf. And so the theme in that is to work very hard so that when something bad happens, you have enough of something to protect yourself or money saved up. So to work very hard and not spend too much time playing. So that is the theme in there. And the motif is essentially the idea that the different pigs made it out of different sticks and things that just are easily blown over instead of nice sturdy bricks. So there we go, that's a base idea. And I already went over an example, but an example that is a little bit more modern today, other than the three little pigs, would be Disney. Disney likes to use motifs. So this would be imagery. They're going to use imagery to make all of their villains so you know who the bad guys are before they do any bad things. And that is typically what they're going to do is they're going to color their bad guys in a greenish color or have green in their scenery. So for instance, we have Scar. He is got green eyes, and in many of the scenes when he's talking to the hyenas, the fire that is literally coming up in the one song is green. It's green fire. We also have the color purple that is used. Maleficent, she not only has green all over all of her different scenes that she's in, she also has purple, along with Ursula, who also once again has purple all over. So Disney characters are color-coded so that you can know whether they're a bad guy or a good guy. Now, there's also plenty of other color themes done and many other different stories, and Disney even has color themes for other things as well, other than just the villains. But that color thing not only exists in Disney, but it also exists in a lot of other different stories. So for instance, Harry Potter, Slytherin is kind of deemed as the bad one, the bad house to be part of, and what's their color? It's green. And in Star Wars, they also kind of do the same thing. It might not be green, but we know the lightsaber colors. Typically the bad guys have like red lightsabers, and then the good guys have green or blue, what have you. And so you're kind of color-coded so you know which guys are the what guys. Now, moving on from just color-coded, we also can get a little bit more in depth with our motifs. And so what is motif again? Motif is the imagery that describes the idea. And so in Star Wars, we're going to talk about some common motifs. Now, typically when we go to Star Wars, it's kind of easy to tell what is the motif. It's normally done by the planet. All the planets typically have one topography. So if you go to a desert planet in Star Wars, the whole planet is a desert planet. If you go to a jungle planet, the whole planet is a jungle planet. Basically, it's the whole thing so that you can see that motif very clearly. So we have 2 desert planets I want to talk about in the Star Wars universe today. Tatooine, which is the home of Luke Skywalker, and Jakku, which is the home of Rey, where we meet her. And both of these planets are very desolate, barren, boring planets that represent kind of the life that Rey and Luke Skywalker are living while they're there. While both of them, we see them in many different scenes looking at the sky, wanting adventure. So they are almost trapped by this barrenness, desolate wasteland that is Tatooine and Jakku. It's unstimulating, it's boring. And both of these characters, you can just tell they want to be somewhere else, doing something else, but something's holding them there. Now, moving on, we have Dagobah. Now, this is one of the interesting ones. Dagobah. Why does Luke Skywalker go to Dagobah? He's told to go to Dagobah to find, basically, Master Yoda. Now, when we think of Master Yoda, we immediately know that Yoda is the little tiny green guy. But put your mindset in Luke Skywalker. He is being told to go find the master of essentially this lightsaber force thing, this great knight of the force who he's heard tales and stories of all of the enemies he's defeated. Do you think he's thinking about a little tiny green guy who's little? No, he's probably not. He's probably thinking of a big, nice knight in shining armor, but the Star Wars version of that. So when he gets to Dagobah, the first thing he does is he crashes into a swamp. It's muggy, it's horrible, there's monsters all over the place. It's just totally terrible. It's not only swampy, it's filled with all sorts of weird life. It's dangerous, in fact. It's not anything that Luke would have expected, which is exactly what Yoda is. Yoda shows up, he finds Yoda, he's talking to him, and he doesn't even have any inclination that Yoda is the master. And in fact, when he says that he is, he doesn't believe him at first. But Yoda has to show him that he is in fact Master Yoda. And so the motif or the theme in Dagobah is the unexpected, that something is not always as it appears. The general idea, we've always heard it, don't judge a book by its cover. And so that's the theme. The motif in Dagobah is the fact that it's swampy and Yoda is small, to basically convey this idea to us with images instead of just telling it to us verbally. What else do we have? The Death Star. We go inside the Death Star, it's very sterile. There's no life. It's just a bunch of robots running around. The stormtroopers are all faceless. Everything is kind of one color. It's dark, it's cold. You just imagine if you were in there, the air conditioner is on way too hot, way too high. You just feel like, whoo, this is a serious air conditioner problem. But it's also a gigantic weapon. So this is a symbol or a representation of the Galactic Empire, its very self. The Galactic Empire itself is very sterile. Whenever we're looking at the Galactic Empire, it's mostly comprised of humans in black suits or stormtrooper suits, opposed to the Rebel Alliance. When we see the Rebel Alliance and we see their ships, there's all these different creatures and aliens who've all joined it. But the Empire itself is all just one type of people, just humans, very sterile. They don't have different ideas, and that Death Star kind of represents that. They're all the same. Their only idea is more power, more blowing up things, and that's how they're going to solve all of their problems. And so the Death Star is a perfect representation of that. We also have the Millennium Falcon. Now, before we meet the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo is telling us about the Millennium Falcon. He's saying, oh, it's the fastest ship in the whole galaxy. It's great, it's fabulous, it's wonderful. We're like, yeah! Let's go see this really fast, awesome ship. And then we get there, and Luke Skywalker says, it's a piece of junk! And then we find out in multiple different occasions, the Millennium Falcon is not going to hyperspeed, it's not going to light speed, there's things falling apart from it all the time. Every other scene is a picture of Chewbacca fixing the ship up the whole time. So what is the theme here? The theme here is representing the idea of Han Solo himself. And it's using the motif or the images of the Millennium Falcon. Basically, the Millennium Falcon is rough around the edges. It's a little bit broken. It's a little bit cracked. It's almost got a mind of its own. It does its own thing, very much like Han Solo. Han Solo does his own thing. He's rough around the edges. He's not your stereotypical Rebel Alliance guy who is ready to follow all the rules and win back the day. He's kind of there for his own reasons. And then he ends up joining the Rebel Alliance for his reasons, but he ends up getting along, and he ends up, despite the fact, kind of being broken, just like the Millennium Falcon, and kind of doing his own thing and doing it his own way. He ends up being a huge part of the Rebel Alliance and being able to contribute even though he's a little bit broken down, just like his ship. So the theme is that sometimes things can help and be a big part of something even though they're a little bit rough around the edges. And so the motif is the imagery of the Millennium Falcon showing us that with visual instead of just saying, oh, you can help out even though that you're not, the perfect guy for this job. So we have that. What else do we have? We've got the X-Wing. It's adventurous, it's young, it's fast, it goes all over the place, it's sleek. This is like a clear example of the idea that Luke Skywalker, which is the ship that we see him in an X-Wing, that he's fast, he's young, he's adventurous, he's ready to go do all of the things in the universe. And that's what the X-Wing looks like. It looks like a fighter from like modern times. It looks like an F-22 or an F-25, so it looks much like our fighter planes that we have today. That's how it's designed, that's how it looks really cool. And so it gives us that idea, which gives us a clear idea of how Luke Skywalker is. He's young, he's maybe a little bit inexperienced, but he's got a lot of energy, which is just like what the X-Wing is. And so through imagery, motif gives us an idea of the theme. So the theme of each one of these characters, Han Solo, rough around the edges, Luke Skywalker, super adventurous. Their ships, through imagery, through motif, show us their theme. So we're going to go ahead and move on from just talking, and we are going to get into our theme of the day, which we're going to talk about at the end. So while we're watching, what I want you to do is our characters. I want you to see if you can come up with any ideas of what is the message or what is the idea that is constantly being portrayed by our two characters, and what kind of imagery is the scene giving to explain this deeper and more in depth. So we're going to go back to using some of our older characters to do this quick little scene here. Lady Fern, I believe you're going to be playing
Archimedes, the creator, who likes to make things out of like old broken down machine parts and whatnot, so that's what I'll be. And
I'm going to be playing Florg the Trandoshan, who is the dumb brute once again.
Excellent. So, both of our characters are on a mission to catch a Wampa so they can bring it back and get the Force holocron that they've been needing this whole time. And so they have flown their ship to the planet Hoth, which is an icy, cold planet with snow and ice everywhere. Very little life because it is so very, very cold there. Their ship lands. They've been traveling for days looking for a Wampa as they walk by, and a slow, cold breeze blows ice crystals across their face. The only thing that they can hear other than the howls of the wind is the probe droid that they've been running around with, the Imperial droid that goes beep and boop every so often. Beep, boop. What do you guys do?
Walk off the ship. Right? We just landed, so walk off the ship.
Yes, you've been traveling for 3 days off the ship. So you're walking on the icy tundra.
Oh, okay. I keep walking.
How does the ice feel between my toes?
Very, very cold. Very cold. Everything is cold to the touch. Even when you smell, it smells very cold. Very cold. You can hear the cold in your bones.
Hey, droid, can you, ask Argamiles, if her sensors have picked up any life forms yet?
Beep, 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 beep.
Can you tell Florg that it's Archimedes for the last time?
Yes. Beep, beep, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said. Archimedes, can you ask her to find if there's any life forms on the reading layout thingy?
No.
Boop, boop.
No, it's Archimedes. Archimedes.
Archimedes.
Boop, boop. They continue like this, barely talking to each other, almost not talking to each other at all, traveling the wastes, the cold, desolate planet of ice, traveling, saying maybe only one or two words to the droid to communicate to each other, and then going hours not talking to each other. What do you guys do after traveling for another 2 days?
Can I check my sensors, see if anything picked up?
Yeah. Do a sensor check.
Mm-hmm. Got 3.
As you sense your device, you notice that its battery has drained completely dead as you touch the last couple buttons. So before it gives you a reading, the battery goes down because it's so very cold. It has stopped working for you.
Ah! Dooblebots. Droid, is there any way you can charge up my sensor? It went dead.
What? You let the sensor run out of energy?
No, it just died because it's so cold.
Well, how are we gonna get back to the ship now? I don't know how to get back. I can't see anything in the snow.
Continue. That was the only thing that they said to each other the whole day as they continued traveling, looking for the Wampa, the cold, frozen tundra. Traveled for another day. What do you guys do?
I try to remember where, if I remember, like, where wampas usually stay. Do they stay in, like, ice caves, or do they just stay out in the open? Got 2 successes to remember.
You're surveying the land and looking around and trying to remember, but you don't know anything about Wampas. You don't know anything about Wampas.
Well, I keep walking around.
Excellent. Floyd, what do you do?
I too will keep walking around, even though I'm getting quite tired of the cold.
Excellent. Another 4 hours go by. What do you do? Archimedes, what do you do?
I'm just getting more and more upset and say less and less things.
Excellent. I've spent days and days not talking to each other, upset at each other for something. The cold is so bitter that they can barely feel their toes anymore, or the tips of their fingers. Suddenly, the droid begins making weird sounds and beeping and boopling and waddling back and forth. Beep, 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 boop, boop, beep, 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 boop, beep, 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 beep. Both of the characters run to the droid to figure out what's going on. And as that happens, they notice that they are in an ice fall, and they begin falling. They find themselves awaking in an ice cavern, just like this. And there before them is a wampa! And the wampa goes, blah, 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 blah. Archimedes, what do you do?
Scream. Ah!
Excellent. The droid goes beep, 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 and moves over here, far away from you guys. All right, Florg, what do you do?
I will go up and punch him.
All right, move your character.
And I will scream, "Ah! Finally someone to talk to!"
Excellent. As you get close enough to him, he had a swipe from his fury, his fists ready to go, and he smashes you across the room, doing 10 points of damage to you.
Blah!
Excellent. Archimedes, it's now your turn again.
I look around the room to see if I could find like anything to capture him or net him or something with. Oh, I guess that's no successes for me.
No successes, but you do notice that the droid has run over to basically what you notice is where he's kept all of the things he's eaten, and you notice that there were some bounty hunters over there who had some different net materials. So like there's a big like wool, woven net out of wool and what have you over there.
Alright, I run over to the droid and have him start helping me take out the netting and stuff.
As
like that.
you ask the droid to help you, you have noticed that the droid itself, all of its parts, are so cold and frozen it can no longer move.
Florg, can you hold off the creature and while I reassemble a net?
Yeah, maybe.
Excellent. Florg, it's your turn.
I will stand on up and try to punch him again.
Excellent. You run over. You may make an attack this time.
I'm quite good at these. I got 3 successes.
Excellent. Normally, you would do 10 points of damage with a punch, but as you punch him really, really strong, he has a lot of fur, and you misjudged it, and you punched only through a little bit of his fur and did half damage instead. So you do 5.
He seems to be more heavily armored than I thought he was.
Excellent. He then picks you up, Florg.
Ah!
So make a dexterous check to try to avoid him picking you
Oh,
up.
I'm not super dexterous.
Ooh, you got 1, and the monster got 3. He's picked you up and thrown you across the room. And you do another 5 points of damage. Excellent. The monster then rumbles and stumbles through the cold all the way closer to Archimedes. Archimedes, what would you do?
I shout, Florg, I thought you were going to help! And then I continue, I guess I need to make a roll to see how well I've created something. I've got 2 successes.
Excellent. It looks like you have finished putting it together. Exactly. So, it's ready to go.
Awesome. Florg, I won't be able to hold him down by myself. I'm going to need you to help after I net him.
Oh, now you need Florg's help. Not before in the snow when the stuff was running out and the batteries were running out.
That was not the time, Florg. Remember when you couldn't say Archimedes?
You know I have a speech impediment that I mess up the end of your name.
That's why the droid was supposed to help you say it correctly.
I am saying it correctly. Your name's Archimedes.
I just need you to help me.
Florg, what do you do?
I will go help Archimedes.
Archimedes.
Excellent. The monster gets very, very, very close. It's about to pick up the droid and smash it. Archimedes, what do you do?
I throw the net over his head. So, not so good at throwing.
Ooh, 2 successes. All right, because Floor, did you decide to help?
Yes, of course I'm gonna help.
All right, you may also add yours to helping her. So 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, the monster is gonna go ahead and roll. He's gonna have to get more than a 5 to win. He got only a 1, which means the net successfully goes over the top of him, but he's trying to break out. So you'll have to make strength checks to go ahead and not have him break out.
I am not very strong. And
0.
I got 0.
And good thing Florg is very strong.
Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The monster is very strong as well. He got 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4. And he is held down, and after a little bit of time, the droid, with its last little bit of frozenness, it goes ahead and opens up a little control panel and sticks the monster with a sleeping agent, and it falls asleep. All right. The monster is now fallen asleep. What do you guys do? You notice that the arm of the droid is stuck frozen out like this. What do you guys do now?
Well, Archimedes, that was good thinking on netting him, but I don't know how to help our droid friend.
Thank you, and I think you did a great job holding down the creature. I'm gonna go ahead and look around and see maybe if we can make a small fire, because I'm getting really cold too. I got a 2.
Nearby, you see a little survival container that has a like a little thing you can burn that also has matches attached to it as well.
I go and I make a little spot next to us and start making a fire.
Excellent. After some time, you guys begin. After you made the fire and you sit down, and as the fire is going, what do you guys do? So we'll say that you guys are sitting here, and the fire is right here as you guys sit around it. What do you guys do as you're sitting around a fire?
Is the droid moving around and okay again?
Nope, it's just next to the fire right now.
Oh, then he can't move still?
Yeah, the droid is, the fire's only been there for like 3.5 seconds as you just started it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Alright,
as
fair
you guys, you can talk to each other or whatever, I don't know. It's up to you guys.
It's really cold in this planet.
I know. I'm sure you feel it worse.
Yeah, because I'm a part lizard man.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, I think we should maybe warm up as best we can and then find a way out.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me. Maybe we can help the droid warm up faster by doing something.
As they continue to talk and rebuild their friendship, the fires of their friendship begin to also melt the ice around the droid, and eventually the droid comes back to life. Beep, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, 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 boop. Excellent. So, we're going to go ahead and stop right there. Now, I want you to go ahead and think, what was our theme? So, what was the message we were trying to convey? There's kind of two of them. And what were the motifs? So, what was the imagery that we used to try to explain this or describe this in a certain kind of a way? So, go ahead and write down your answers, and then go ahead. We're going to write down our answers, and then come on back. So, we're going to take a quick 2 minutes. All right. So let's go ahead and start over here with Florg. What did Florg write down as basically the theme? So the meaning of the message, or what was the message, and then what was the motif, the imagery used to describe it?
So the one that I chose was loneliness, and the way that we kind of described that during the scene was one, Archimedes and Florg were not talking to each other, they were talking to each other through the droid. It was very cold, and that kept being brought up, and that coldness was kind of more of an emotional coldness as well as a physical coldness that we felt on the planet itself.
Excellent, excellent. All right, and then Lady Miss Fern, would you go ahead and put?
I kind of got the same thing, like of coldness and friends that are mad at each other, so they're giving each other like a cold shoulder, and basically the only way to like melt away that cold was being kind and friendly towards each other again. So that's kind of the theme and motif all in one.
Exactly. That is exactly what we were trying to get at. So hopefully you got the same thing. If not, maybe rewatch and see if you can pick up on it. Once again, the theme was essentially they were upset and angry at each other, and so they were giving each other the cold shoulder. So the theme is that they're not liking each other right now. They're mad about something. The motif is essentially the imagery used to describe that. And we did that in a few different ways. One, we were on a planet that was completely cold. You've always heard of the thing, giving a person a cold shoulder. It means you're not trying to talk to them, or you're giving very short answers to them. So they're on a cold planet. It's literally saying cold shoulder every second of the time when we're talking and walking on it. And so they also, if you're not going to be anyone's friend, you're also going to be very lonely. And so that's why they traveled on and on and on for days, because they were lonely by themselves, not talking to each other. And another image used to describe the fact that this was happening is the droid itself. And the further they continued to be cold to each other, the more the droid became cold and incapable of moving, much like their friendship. And eventually they were so cold to each other that the droid itself could barely move. Almost as if their friendship had died for a moment until they were able to become friends again and warm it up. Not just through the fire, literally, but also through talking and being kind to each other. So if the theme is cold shoulder, it was also loneliness and also friendship at the end. So we have 3 different themes in there with 3 different motifs. You know, the idea that the planet was very cold and hostile. And the more unfriendly they became to each other, they ended up finding a vicious monster that was there that attacked them. So as the monster showed up, their friendship had died and was frozen and cold, but the monster was still there. And that was their anger at each other, ravaging their friendship. But eventually they kind of worked together, and just a small working together, they were able to quell their anger. So they quelled and trapped the monster. And that gave just a little bit of life to the droid, which allowed them to realize how important their friendship was, which is why they then decided to be nice and warm to each other and have a little fire. So, what your homework is today is to look at your character and think if you can come up with any themes for your character. So, we talked about how Han Solo has a ship that's rough around the edges, and it has a mind of its own. Does your character have something, a ship of their own, a car of their own, some sort of helmet or gadget that they wear that represents their personality? So, look at that. Maybe they're from a planet that represents their theme of how they are. Or kind of the opposite. For instance, how Luke Skywalker was on a desolate planet, and so he was trapped, and he always wanted to go out and explore, but he's trapped somewhere. So come up with a message, that's your theme that you want to tell, and then list a bunch of images on what images could be used to describe that theme. very much in the way that the Millennium Falcon or the X-Wing represent those different characters, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. If you want to go ahead and maybe stray away from your character and maybe you want to come up with a villain character, come up with something new, go ahead and come up with a villain that has a certain type of personality, okay? And then, do they have a certain kind of ship that represents their personality? Maybe they have a very fiery, hot, angry temper. Is their ship very hot, fiery, and angry? And describe how their ship is. Maybe they're a villain who can't make up their mind, and maybe the ship can't make up their mind. Or if you want to come up with your own character all brand new to go ahead and demonstrate this, you can as well. That's a whole bunch of different ideas and examples. So I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say and their motifs and themes. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye.